Hey y'all, it's Nicole from Maestro here, and we got a few requests to show how I created this real-time weather widget for our entry to July's eLearning challenge in Tim Slade's eLearning Designers Academy. I made this in just about 20 minutes using ChatGPT and Mighty, but before we jump into exactly what prompts I used, let's do a level set on what my plan was and my development setup. So I knew a couple of things going in. I knew first off that the National Weather Service has a public-facing API that I could pull real-time data from. But since Caballero County, as far as I'm aware, is a fictitious place, I needed to choose a real place to get data from. So I was inspired by the saguaro cactuses in the style guide that was provided for this challenge. So I picked my spot somewhere in Saguaro National Park, just outside of Tucson, Arizona. So I know that I want to pull things like the temperature and the dew point, and each observation also comes with this cute little icon to go with it, so I wanted to include that in the widget as well. I also note that I want the widget to be in vanilla JavaScript. I don't want to use any fancy frameworks. I just want to work with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I'm also most comfortable coding in VS Code, so I'll use that to develop the files. And I also use the live server extension in VS Code to preview and troubleshoot the widget before I ship it off to Rise. So my strategy going in is I'm going to first get the URL to the data feed that I want. Then I'm going to create and refine the widget using VS Code and ChatGPT. Then I'm going to style it how I want, and I'll upload it to Rise using Mighty. So let's get started. All right, so what I'm going to show you now are the actual prompts that I gave to ChatGPT to create the widget, and then I'll be creating the necessary files here in VS Code on the left side of my screen too. So starting first with the initial prompt that I gave to ChatGPT, I said that I wanted to pull real current conditions from a particular latitude and longitude. I just picked a point that I found on Google Maps in Saguaro National Park. And then I am telling ChatGPT that I want to add it into a lightweight widget with vanilla JavaScript. I want to pull the temperature, the dew point, and the little weather icon that they use from the National Weather Service API. And I'm asking specifically what endpoint can I use to pull that data feed to then use in my widget. So what this prompt is doing is a couple of things. It's providing a specific question. I want to know which endpoint or what URL I'm going to get my data from, but also laying the context that I'm eventually going to be putting this into a JavaScript widget. So what ChatGPT gave back to me is a couple of different steps to find the exact endpoint or URL that I'll need to get the latest observations from. So what we ended up was this URL here, and I'm going to show you what that looks like real quick. It provides the data in JSON format, which if you've never seen it before, probably looks pretty ugly and complicated, but it is meant to be human readable. So you can read it almost like a dictionary with a value and then, or rather a variable, and then what value that variable has. So I'm gonna just quickly peruse this to make sure that it has the temperature and dew point and other variables that I'm looking for. And I'm seeing that right here, that there is temperature, and it's showing me temperature values in degrees Celsius, which is something that I'll want to keep track of because I will want to report it in Fahrenheit. But it has temperature and dew point, and it has the little icon there as well. So after that, it also provides me with some example JavaScript and what the widget might look like in HTML as well. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this JavaScript here, just the whole thing, wholesale, and create a new file that I'm just going to call it something super basic and call it script.js. Maybe not in caps lock. Create the file and then just paste that in wholesale and save. I've got Copilot going on here. I'm gonna snooze that here for a little while so we don't get the code samples. Okay, and then once we have that done, working with the HTML, we know that we're going to have to build an index.html file because that's what the interactive HTML block in Mighty and Rise need. And this isn't a full HTML file. This is just a little snippet. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to add this into what we would call a boilerplate page that like has all the other surrounding code that you need to like fully render an HTML page properly. So I could have done it myself, but I just asked ChatGPT to do it for me because it's super easy. And so here is a full index.html file here. So I'm just going to copy the whole thing. I'm going to create a new file, index.html. That opens up automatically for me. I'll paste in the HTML and save it. And then with the live server extension in VS Code, I can just right click on index.html and open with live server. And it renders me what the widget looks like. And so it's done a couple of things for me already. Notably, it's changed the temperature into Fahrenheit, which I appreciate. It gave me a little header, but notably here, the weather icon is a broken link, right? So that's something that we're going to need to start troubleshooting. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is figure out what URL is it trying to pull an icon from, and then what is the URL that we actually need. So to figure out what URL the icon is trying to load, I'm going to right click on it and then open the image in a new tab. And this shows me that it's trying to pull from essentially nowhere. So this is the local IP that's associated with the live server extension, and it's just not pulling the URL at all. Going back to our data feed URL, we can see that the icon is here. This is what it should be pulling from. And I can even open this URL to see that the icon is indeed there. So that's the next thing that I'm going to be asking ChatGPT for. If I scroll down just a little bit here, we've got, that's great, but the icon link is broken. It's trying to point to this null URL. I'm letting it know that I'm using VS Code and live server to test, but that the icon URL needs to be pulled directly from this icon property in the JSON. And so it finds that URL here and then provides some updates. And right around here is where I notice that the JavaScript is actually doing something that I don't want to do. It's using these latitude and longitude points here to first find the station closest to those points and then pull the data from that URL. But I actually don't want to do that. I just always want to pull data from this one URL from the station KDMA. So I didn't even bother testing this one yet. I said, let's not make this complicated. I just always want to grab this data from this one site, not data that's closest to that GPS location. So I asked it to just always pull from that one station, and it updated the JavaScript for me. So I'm going to copy that JavaScript, go back to the script.js file, and I'm just going to copy paste in the new code and save it. So now I can go back to the widget and I can see that my little icon is there. So that fixed that issue. And then no changes to the index.html are needed. So now is where I can go into refining what that widget looks like. So a couple of things that I wanted to do with the widget was to move this header inside of the box. I don't want it to be outside. And I want it to be left aligned, or in the top left corner inside of the div, that's that little box, and have the icon below it left aligned, but all of the observations should be on the other side of the icon. And so I knew that this was going to be an HTML slash CSS kind of ask. And as we can see that in our index.html, the CSS is embedded within it, so we don't have a separate CSS file. That's all here between these style tags. So what I provided to ChatGPT was just the full updated HTML file that I had and said, please make these changes. So I gave that to ChatGPT, and again, I'm just gonna copy paste exactly what it has here. So I'll replace the full file since it did give me the full file back, and I'll save it. And then now we have the header here inside of the div, and it's aligned exactly how I wanted it with the icon over here and the conditions over here. And so this is a fully functioning weather widget at this point. We can do any sort of styling that we want in the CSS here. We can change the background colors to be the colors that are in the style guide. You can even change fonts as well. But this will get us up and running for the main part. So let's transition now into how we can get this widget from these two files in VS Code to uploading it to our Rise course using Mighty. All right, so now we're ready to integrate the widget that we made into our Rise course. So the way that we're going to do this is with the interactive HTML block with Mighty. And the thing to keep in mind when you're using the interactive HTML block is that you must have an index.html file in a zip folder, and it must be at the top level, not like nested inside of another folder. So the way that we're going to do that is just by selecting these two files, our HTML and our JavaScript, and then compressing or sending to a zip folder. So now that we have our zip file, I'm going to rename this to something a bit more meaningful for me. I'm going to call this Caballero Weather Demo. And then I'll go over to my Rise course and I'll choose the interactive HTML block. And then going over to the content pane, I'm just going to drag and drop the zip file in there. And as easy as that, the widget is there in our Rise course. I'm going to do a couple of other tweaks. I'm going to make the content width the full width, and I'm going to remove the border. Everything else I'll keep the same. And now we have the widget directly in our Rise course. You can do any other styling of the widget by editing the index.html file, and you can even ask ChatGPT to help you change colors, fonts, or anything else. And then you can seamlessly integrate the widget into your course using any Mighty transitions or other blocks. So we hope you enjoyed this demo, and let us know if you have any other questions or you want to see more vibe coding with ChatGPT demos from us in the future. A big good luck to everyone building their courses for this July challenge, and we can't wait to see what y'all have cooking. So we'll see y'all next time.